Hi everyone, this is Agnes, and today I'm joined by Dan. He's one of the YouTube viewers, and you can see him there. And I've asked him to join me today because he's a really, really big Neville Goddard lover, as I am. And I thought it'd be a really good thing for us to do a duo today so that you can hear a bit more about Neville, really, because we're Nevillites.
We're not singing, by the way. No. Well, we can sing, but we'll do a bit of Neville as well.
We'll keep that for the end. We'll sing it.
Yeah, the encore.
Yes, so welcome to Dan Haynes, and we are going to talk. Yeah, I'm glad that you said yes to this. I'm actually going to do this probably every couple of months. I'll ask one of the viewers to join me. Yeah. And I just had in my head, Dan, for probably about 6 weeks, that I wanted to do a Neville one, and you were the first one that came to mind for me. So I'm glad you said yes.
It's fantastic. As I say, I'm a big fan of his books. You know, I came across him probably last September. I mean, I've been sort of into the law of attraction for probably, well, I stumbled on the law of attraction in about 2013, actually. I went on Netflix. And, you know, one night I was a bit bored, you know, as you are sometimes, and got nothing to do, which is not very often these days. And came across the Secret, and just had a thought, this looks quite interesting. Watched it, you know, and then I think in the introduction it says about, you know, this woman. What's her name now? I can't remember. It's gone.
Rhonda Byrne.
Rhonda Byrne, that's the one. She said she'd read all these books throughout the ages, well, you know, from all these different places, all talking about this thing. And me being me, I'm just like, when I get interested in something, I just research it to death. You know, I go out and I buy books, I go on Amazon and buy them and everything. And Neville, of course, you know, over time, I started off with The Secret and The Power and all that, and eventually got round to Neville last probably August, September. And I think I read one called 5 Lessons, which is like his, you know, very Bible based. When I first read it, I thought this is quite archaic. It's hard to understand. You know, it's not quite sure what he's saying. Yeah. But then I got into like the other books, like the prayer book. That's a fantastic one. Prayer, the Art of Believing, and then there's The Law and the Promise. I think that's that one, with all the examples. And one in particular really stood out, and that was. I think it was in the 1930s when there was a depression in America, wasn't it? And he wanted to go back he hadn't been back home. He was born in Barbados, wasn't he? Yes. In 1905, I think it was. And he hadn't been back there for probably about 30 years, I think. And he really wanted to go back for Christmas, wasn't it? And he had this friend called Abdullah, this enigmatic friend, you know, that we don't really hear a lot about in the Neville books. You know, he just sort of refers to him every now and again. And I think he was Ethiopian, wasn't he? Quite a spiritual guy. And he sort of went to Abdullah, I think, and said, you know, I want to go back, but I can't afford to go back. And his response, I think it threw Neville at first. He's like, you are in Barbados, you know. What do you mean? No, I'm not. I'm in New York, you know. It's a bit cold for Barbados. It's, you know, and I think he just sort of went away with that, didn't he? And didn't really sort of understand what Abdullah was saying to him. And I think he sort of went back a few times and said, you know, what do you mean, basically? And Abdullah wouldn't talk to him. You know, he says, you are in Barbados. That's the end of the. And I think what I get from that is, you know, Abdullah was trying to not interfere, not instill doubt into his mind. He was trying to sort of focus him on the fact that he's in Barbados. Nothing else matters. You're there. You know, that's what you need. That's where you need to be in your head. That's where your consciousness needs to be. You know, you need to be thinking from there. You know, not thinking, oh, this hasn't happened yet. This hasn't happened. But I think he actually eventually got a ticket for this place. I think his brother had sent him some money, hadn't he, and said, we want you to join us for Christmas. And but it was in 3rd class. So he went back to Abdullah and he was like, Abdullah, it's, you know, I've got this ticket, it's worked, you know. And Abdullah was like, you're not going 3rd class, you're going 1st class or something. What do you mean? I thought you'd be really pleased. And he wasn't. He was just like, no, this isn't how it was envisaged, you know. And of course, as we know from the story, eventually he ends up going 1st class because somebody cancels. And basically that that faith, just, you know, that conviction, and just thinking from that seemed to get him this, exactly, you know, where he wanted to be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the concepts of Neville that I like the most, is that, you know, you don't think of something, you think from it. And you forget about the space in between. You and it is thinking of, but when you're thinking from, you and the thing are together and you're merged, and then there is no more separation. And I love that whole thing. I'd never heard that before until I first started reading Neville, and it really changes the speed of your manifesting. How quickly things
from
come.
it, you mean?
Yeah.
Because I know when sorry, go on, Luke. I think
go ahead. We've got a bit of delay.
Yeah, when I started with this stuff, I always used to think of things. Because I think the secret as well sort of gives you, although it's obviously, you know, really good and it's right, it doesn't have so much of the thinking from, does it? It's more like vision boards and, you know, affirmations, and, you know, it does have a little bit of that in it, like imagine you're in the car driving it, that sort of thing. But I think Neville goes into it in a lot more depth, that side of things.
He does. And I think Neville's the only one I've ever read from all the law of attraction teachers I've read that says God is your human imagination.
Yeah.
No one else says that. Not even Abraham Hicks, not even, you know, Catherine Ponder, even Rhonda Byrne. I've never heard anyone say that God is your human imagination. And I remember thinking, what? Like, why is God positioned here? Like, that just, it was a really weird thing for me at first.
Yeah, and when you look in the Bible and you look at Neville's sort of examples of quotes from the Bible, you can actually start to think, yeah, actually that makes sense. I haven't read it that way before. You know, it does actually make a lot of sense. You know, and this idea that everything comes from within. You know,
yes.
When you think about it, you think, oh, you know, you can't blame others as much. It gives you a lot of power in a way as well, because you're saying, I have the power to change this situation within me, and like, you're not blaming everything else, and you're not thinking I'm powerless. You know, I have the, you know, through my own consciousness, I can actually change stuff and, you know, attract things to me that I want. You know, it's a very empowering idea, really.
Yeah, it is. It is, because I think our human tendency is to, something comes into your life, you see it as a problem, then you keep the problem active by talking about it. Whereas Neville gets you to switch gears and go into, well, what would the solution be to this? And then you live from that, and you live from the wish fulfilled. You change your state, which means how you feel about it, as if you've already got the solution. And then it has to be photocopied. The solution within you then has to outpicture itself on the outside. To anyone's ever explained that as well as Neville. To me personally, I find him the best explainer, even though, like you say, sometimes you read it and you go, what? It's a little bit complicated. You have to kind of read through it a few times.
I think I'd sent you one, hadn't I, about thought transmission, and like, I just read that chapter and I'm like, what is he on about? I'm sorry, but you know, eventually I got asked to. I think you did a YouTube on it, and I understood it a lot better, you know, once but I couldn't get my head around it at first. I'm like, nope, next chapter.
But there's so much in that thought transmission chapter. Like, it's like you got to almost draw pictures and plan it out on a linear line for your head to go, okay, if I do this to a person, or if I, you know, and the fact that it can be rejected, what you send can be rejected or accepted, like all that stuff, you just go, what? Like, it's so, with, you know, and I think what's interesting is we are told so often that we can't control others and that we don't have the ability, you know, some people try and manipulate and control and all that stuff, but this is like the power of influence, and you can actually influence people by the thoughts that you hold of them, you know, like in the case of someone being really ill and you want to hold them in the light of being really healthy, or, you know, there's some examples, but the power of influence in a positive way is such a fascinating thing.
It is, yeah. And I suppose it's like there's a bit of responsibility there, isn't there, in the sense that you use it for sort of, like you say, for healing people and helping people to heal and helping them to sort of, well, yeah, just helping them in a positive way, really.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, it's that influence that it puts out there, and that those vibes that you put out that come from you. Again, coming there, isn't it? And out it goes, and that gets photocopied back or reflected back at you. What you put out comes back, like the universe is a mirror, if you like.
Yeah. It's I think growing up, I always thought just stuff happened randomly around you. I didn't understand any of this. I didn't even know this existed. It was such a foreign world for me to understand that everything was actually done by me. The world that I knew, as in the world around me, was actually being created, assembled in front of me. I'm approaching, and it assembles itself through my thinking, feeling, and believing of certain things.
Yeah, because like you hear people say, don't you? Oh, this happened to me today. This happened to me.
Yeah.
This happened to me. What's really, I suppose you could say, it's this happened from me. In a way,
that happened from me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a good T-shirt, Dan.
Be a good T-shirt. This happened from me. Yeah. Everybody like what?
Me. And then you put NG underneath. Neville.
Yeah. Yeah, not the full name, or just Neville. Like Neville who?
Yeah. Who's Neville?
Yeah. I mean, you go on Google, and like, there's not a lot about Neville, is there? There's not a lot that's written about him, really, about him himself. Obviously his books, but actually written about him.
Yeah.
He's quite a mysterious figure, really. I know, so we'd said in the past, it would have been amazing to be at one of his lectures, and sat there and just taking it all in, really.
Have you ever seen that YouTube of what's the guy? Can't remember his name, but he was in The Law and the Promise. He was one of the stories, and he was the one that had the dance studio guy.
Oh yes, I read that one.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Actually, what I'll do is I will look for that YouTube, and I will post it as a link in the description of this YouTube, because that guy actually knew Neville face to face, and Neville signed the book that he owns. Yeah.
Ah, right. That's
the Arthur Murray studio guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to sort of envision for people, didn't he, Neville? Sometimes people write to him and say, I need your help with this or whatever, and he'd actually speak the words. I don't know what the correct term is, but he would actually like pray for them and
pray and revise, which is the other thing you and I thought we would discuss. The power of revision. He would often revise. There was quite a few times where he'd be on the phone and the person would hang up. He told Neville what the problem was, and then Neville would hang up and he'd stay on the phone with his eyes shut, and he would revise the solution for that person for 5-10 minutes before he hung up the phone. So I love how he did revision for people. There's actually a Neville Goddard Facebook group. People have asked me about it a few times. I don't know if I told you, but it's a revision group. So people post what they want revised, and then other people, if you're that way inclined. I personally prefer to revise for myself, because I want to make sure I get some good skills. I want the skills in my pocket, to get better. So if you want people to revise for you, there is that Facebook group that's there to do that.
Excellent. I'll look that up, actually, because there's a few things in my life I feel I need to revise. I need to go over again. I know there's a fantastic story in I think it's Law and the Promise. There's this woman, I think she was wearing stilettos, and she fell over and broke her ankle. And she went to bed that night and sort of revised this incident, and sort of that she didn't fall over. And I think was she on a swing? I can't remember the exact how it happened, but anyway, she went to bed and revised this scene, and she got this broken ankle from falling over, and she'd actually managed to, in about think it was about 3 nights or something, the ankle had actually healed itself, or well, it was gone. It was gone. It was like it hadn't happened or something. And I was absolutely amazed at that. I thought, that is it. It's actually, it's almost like it's changed the timeline. I don't know. There's quite a bit of context.
Yes.
People have different views on whether it actually does change the timeline, or whether it conscious, it's the subconscious that actually heals the ailment or the situation. I don't know. I'm not certain on myself which side of I'm a bit on the fence. I don't know which one it is. What do you think about that?
Well, I think because like if something happens to you, say when you're 17, and it was a negative experience, and then people say the past is dead. Neville says the past is still alive. Why he says that is because the event was like, say, 20 years before. But what happens is you're still carrying the emotional response. And if something happens to you in the present that's very similar, it activates all that old stuff. So
I suppose in the subconscious as well, everything there's no such thing as time in the sort of past, present, and future are all part of the same. So it's timeless in that sense, in the 4-dimensional realms.
Yes.
Sorry, you were saying. I just cut in there.
No, that's okay. So the past isn't dead because you've kept it alive, and then something's happened where someone's put their finger in your past, so to speak, by doing something right now that's reactivated it. So therefore if you don't know any of this stuff about Neville, you react to the thing, not just the thing that's just happened, but you react with all the emotion from what happened to you when you were 17. So I was going somewhere with this and I've lost my train of thought. You asked something at the beginning and I thought I want to answer that question.
Yes, about whether does it change the timeline, or is it just the subconscious sort of heals the problem in itself, of itself?
Well, I think when you actually go back, that's right. Okay, this is the example that will show it pretty clearly. There is a woman in the Law and the Promise. She fell off a swing when she was young. She had back problems for decades, bedridden a lot of the time, back problems.
This is all coming back to me.
And then she went to heaps of chiropractors, osteopaths, went and, had all sorts of treatment, nothing worked. So what she did was she found out about Neville and about revision. So she went back in her imagination to that night, or not the night, the day where she had that accident as a child. So she actually would practice swinging, and then instead of landing and then falling and having the accident, she went through jumping off the swing and landing firmly on her feet and then running to her mum and saying, look what I did. She said she did this for a succession of nights. I can't remember how many. And she said she got to the place where she actually really felt that she had revised the horrible incident. And she said within, I think it was like a very short period, less than a week or something, she started feeling the back easing off. And then within 2 months, all the back pain was gone. So what happened was she was keeping the past alive by saying, I've got back problems because of that accident I had when I was a kid. So then your body goes, that's exactly right. And then keeps her locked into the injury.
It's impressing the subconscious sort of thing.
So as she went to the original day, completely revised it. So you basically got a rubber and you're rubbing out that the incident that happened in your thoughts, in your feelings, and in your beliefs. Then when you fast forward to today, the back no longer needs to hold that injury of today because you're no longer believing that that's the thing that's locked you up now.
It's almost like you're unselecting your selection, aren't you? Almost, you made a select, and you're going back and I want to go that way now. I'm reversing out of there. I'm coming back and I'm going that way.
Exactly. That's a good way of saying it. It's an unselection. You selected something and then you kept selecting it for the next 25 years. But I love that one because it was a very clear and easy to see, just really easy to see how that one worked because it was a specific.
When you were telling, when you were saying about it, it came back to me now. I think that might have been the one I was talking about.
Is that the one you were talking about? Okay,
yeah,
that's all right. I thought that one sounds sort of familiar, the one you talked about. But
yeah,
it's wonderful to go back and undo, like unselect, as you say, something that happened, and then it rubs out the today. But it's sometimes you can't. The tricky part is that one's really obvious. I had an injury, and now I've got a back problem. Whereas sometimes you think, okay, I've got this lack of money, for example, but I can't remember what the heck happened in my childhood exactly that I believed or that I saw on a particular day. It might be a whole succession of things that you heard and saw over 10 years. So those are a bit harder to revise because you can't really put your finger on it exactly.
You're trying to find that trigger, if you like, where it all started, and that's what sent you down that line, really.
Yeah.
I suppose with emotional stuff as well, it's more difficult with that for that reason, because it can be like a layer and layer upon layer of things sometimes that right underneath all that is the one thing that started your belief process in this particular thing that you've got. But I think as you do more of this stuff, you learn more about yourself, don't you, as well, and sort of you just going into yourself and into your imagination, you learn a lot more about what triggers you and what makes you tick as well. And definitely, exactly. I liked your illustration about selection. I like that idea that you, in any point in your life. I mean, I read about that. I watched you and Dan talking about it, about selection, and I like the idea, of picking a book off a shelf and this is the blue book.
Yes.
It's almost like every point in your life. I mean, I know there's sort of quite a lot of talk about, in the quantum mechanics and all that, that if the universe is infinite, then time and space is infinite. So everywhere, space is everywhere, and every sort of time must be everywhere as well, and different periods of time must be everywhere. It all gets very, very sort of, quite mind-blowing. But I also like the idea, therefore, that why not every possibility is there as well, just in front of any given point in time, you are selecting your path through life, and every choice you make, is you've got this selection in front of you, which is infinite, really. Any possibility is there. It's just whatever one you choose to take based on what your beliefs are, Does that sort of make sense? I've just been pondering on for a while,
Yeah, no, it's the conscious selection thing is fascinating because it's that thing. Just because you pick something doesn't mean all the other possibilities cease to exist. It's just that one gets into the foreground and the others kind of recede back.
Yeah, it's almost like
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Well, it's just a bit like, it's when you decide that you want to buy, a green, emerald green car.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you see them regularly, whereas before they were just part of the background. You didn't notice any blue ones or grey ones or anything. You just saw cars. Whereas as soon as you want something, your focus on that thing literally focuses it on the road where they come into the foreground and all the other ones drop back. So I find that it's a focus-based universe. I used to hear that, but what does that mean? In that example, that's what it means. You are literally through your thoughts, through your eyes, and through your, desire for something. It just gets pulled in to your visuals.
Yeah, it's quite funny. A few weeks ago, I was I'm thinking of getting a new car. I'm not driven for a long time, so it's going to be very interesting when I do get on the road.
Yeah.
It's been a few years. I'll be like, I'll tell all my friends to watch out. I'll let you know when I'm out on the road so you can stay out of the way. But anyway, I was was thinking, you know, my parents are saying, what sort of car are you thinking of getting then? I'm thinking, I'd love a Mini Cooper. So just out of, you know, one night I was in a bit of Nevilleizing, and I thought, I really want a Mini Cooper. I really fancy a silver Mini, you know, I really want a silver Mini Cooper. And I know on the steering wheel there's like the Cooper sign, you know, this logo on the steering wheel. I just kept imagining myself, you know, sort of feeling this very smooth logo and holding the wheel and all this, and all very just for a few, you know, probably about a week I did it, and it was fun. I walked to work, because I'm, you know, about 20 minutes away where I work, and
wow, that's handy.
Crossing over the roads, and like, you know, everywhere I went in town there's a bloody Mini Cooper there, you know.
Wow.
All these Mini Coopers everywhere, and driving past, I'm thinking, where will these come from, you know? Whether I noticed it more because I was sort of, you know, wanting one and looking for it. I wasn't really looking for it though, so it's not like I was going out and consciously looking for it either. But suddenly all these started coming out, and I was like, everyone's got a Mini Cooper all of a sudden. So it's quite funny.
Yes, yeah. The car one's such a good one, because, you know, you're always surrounded by them wherever you go.
Yeah.
You know, they're always there. So it's a good one to see when you do want one, just how they start to, you know, kind of group and cluster around you, because it's, you know, actually, that's another good point, rather than seeing it as, oh, everybody's got one and I haven't got one, which doesn't get you one. You go, oh, yay, this is science. This is birds before land. I'm starting to see them, you know, like Columbus saw birds before he saw the land.
Of course. Yes, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
You know, so it's the same. Yeah. It's your birds before land moment when you start seeing them cluster around you. If you can take it as the glass half full instead of the glass half empty.
Yes.
In those moments, because it's easy to, when you want something and you can't get it today, to go, oh, look at that bastard's got my car, you know.
Sort of, it's just, I suppose it's the, what you call the bridges of incident, isn't it? As you start to focus on something that you want, you know, it's almost like the universe starts to give you signs, or starts to put you in that place, or starts to, you know, move you towards that place, or maybe brings it to you. I don't know which way around, but like you said, I suppose that's how you start to look at things, and you think, oh yeah, I can see that's happening now. I mean, it's quite funny. I've sort of really, again, a few months ago now, I was going through looking on holidays and everything, and I really want to go to this place, French Polynesia. That's like my dream place to go, you know. And I was sort of reading just one day on the internet, just having a look through and looking at all these pictures of French Polynesia. And I just thought, oh, wow, I really want to go to like Tahiti, Bora Bora. I want to do all these, I want to start traveling and everything. And I was just thinking, I did a bit of imagining again, you know, on the beach in Bora Bora. I wasn't really sort of trying to manifest it, you know, to any great degree. I guess I was just playing with the idea, really. And a few nights, you know, I was just imagining myself lying on this beach, and even sort of like didn't think anything of it I did it for about a week. Sort of put it away and moved on to other stuff. And about 2 weeks ago, my friend said to me, oh, you know, if you know, I really want to go on, I want to go traveling, you know, and this holiday, you know, possibly in about 6 months, you know, Bora Bora is one of the places that it stops off on, you know, and we're like, you know, can't do it this year, but it's a possibility, you know, it's suddenly there, you know. It started to show up, and like on my Facebook feed, I keep seeing Bora Bora, you know, and this, and like French Polynesia's coming up, and you know, I didn't see it as much before. Again, it's like the minis, I suppose. You just start to see these things, and and you think, is that the universe, you know, responding to what I'm putting out, you know? Yeah.
You know, Dan, I remember when I was, I had about $36,000 worth of debt, and I was really like going mad because I hadn't had a holiday. I don't think I'd been to see my family in France for, I think it was probably 15, 20 years. And I was really like, just, you know, I just didn't have a manifesting money consciousness at all. And I was thinking, boy, you know, with this law of attraction stuff and with this Neville stuff, you know, you got to apply it to this subject. You got to do something, you know. And I did that. I started visualizing walking down the main street of the village that I come from, that my 4 generations of my family had come from in the south of France. And so I just would think, okay, Neville says that I can do this. Doesn't matter about my financial situation. Doesn't matter about work. I just got to hop into the end result. So I did it like night after night after night. I think I was obsessed with it because I really was sick and tired of not being able to go on holidays. And they were all getting older and I wasn't getting to see them. And I thought they're going to die and I'm never going to get there because of my money. And I thought, no, it's not because of my money. It's because of my lack of focus, you know? So I thought, okay, it's not about my money. It's about my lack of focus. So I thought, well, I can focus whether I've got money or not. I can focus. So I just made it, you know, my nightly thing. And then I can't remember the exact timing of everything, but I remember someone paid me for like this job, and they paid me, instead of paying me at the end of the job, they paid me in advance for the whole year, even though it was 1 day a week. And and it was like all of a sudden I had like 6,000 Australian dollars, which was well and truly enough for a ticket. So I paid off some of my debt, and then I went, right, I'm not paying off my whole debt and not going on this. I got to go. And then it will give me the, you know, momentum to then pull in more money to pay off the rest of the debt. And then, you know, that's what happened. I finally paid it all off. And I did walk down that street exactly how I saw, looking out my own eyes, seeing the church at the bottom of the main street in this little village, the cobblestones and, you know, all that stuff. So it was a good exercise.
Yeah, because Neville says, doesn't he? He says, like, if you can see it in your imagination, then it is real. You know, it's just as real as reality almost. It's just that it's in that 4th dimension. I know there's a guy called Thomas Troward who's like, you know, he was a barrister, and he wrote a book called The Edinburgh Lectures, which I've just managed to get through. Honestly, it's like wading through a swamp. It's so hard to understand. You think Neville's hard to understand? This guy's like real highbrow language, you know. And I was actually looking up, so I was in the thesaurus looking up a few of the words. I'm an English student, but I didn't know what he meant, like. So but yeah, what he talks about was this idea of like prototypes, you know, spiritual prototypes, and sort of, you know, you put them in motion when you think, you know, when you imagine, you know, everything's there like as a prototype, like I suppose like a dummy, if you like. That's best way to describe it. And when you focus on that dummy, you start to sort of make it into something real. You know, it starts off like a nucleus, you know. And then your thoughts and what you focus on attracts energy to that thing, and it manifests. You know, you're trying to sort of explain the scientific or metaphysical, you know, how it all sort of happens, I suppose. But because it's still a mystery, isn't it, how it actually manifests this stuff? It's this kind of energy. It's energy. It's like universal energy. Thomas Troward calls it. This idea, you know, there's this universal subconscious. Is like, you know, it's this, the great subconscious, if you like, and our subconsciouses are linked to that subconscious, and that's how we manifest, and that's what we ask of that. It sort of manifests. It's quite hard to explain, but it's sort of our subconscious is the bridge between that, you know, the universal subconscious and us, really. And that's how we sort of draw things to us. But this idea of nucleuses, and, you know, that's how things start, and they just sort of gradually manifest. I
know, it's like the through the focus, through the desire and the emotion of the desire, it's like the particles start to assemble themselves. I find it interesting, like it's like this vacant space, and then all of a sudden through your, like you're saying, through your connection, through, you know, the God within connects to the bigger thing, and then it starts through that, it's kind of maneuvers the particles into a fuzzy target, so to speak, and then it assembles itself into a physical hard thing, and it's fascinating.
I suppose as well, like, because I know Thomas Troward again talks about sort of like the more feeling you put into it makes it manifest faster. I suppose emotion is like energy, isn't it? It is an energy, and the more emotion you give something, the more energy you give it, and the quicker you manifest it as well.
Definitely. And I think going back to the trip, my emotion was about I want to see my family.
Yeah,
So
which was a
that
strong
trip,
emotion.
it's a strong emotion. I haven't seen them for ages. They raised me when I was a child. I need to go and see them. And it was this
Yeah,
powerful thing. And there needs to be strong emotion to actually create the discipline to do the
yeah,
imagining sessions every night. Otherwise, you kind of do it for 2 or 3 days, and then you drift out and you forget totally that you were even doing it.
yeah. That's true. Because I suppose like the flip side of that is when I suppose that's why doubt in a way is like an inversion of faith, isn't it? It has the opposite effect. You know, it takes the energy away from that, or it puts energy into not having something. I suppose, like say, if you've got that desire and that real drive for something, you will have that discipline and that emotion to pack into that and make it. But having said that, it's quite interesting sometimes when you start to manifest, or you try and manifest something that you really want, you almost lose energy with it, or you get a bit like, I don't know, you can't focus or you can't be disciplined, and it almost makes you realise, actually, I don't want that as much as I thought I did. Else I would be putting more energy into it, and so it helps you almost. I suppose that's why they say, what do I really want? You know, you have to know that first, which is what Neville says, of course. He says, what do I want is the first thing, you know, what do I really want this thing or not? You know, and that's sometimes what you think you want isn't always what you want. And it's not until you start trying to manifest that, it's almost like your mind or your subconscious says, actually, you don't really want that, you know, unless you'd be putting more into it. I've had that a few times as well. And I've surprised myself, you know, I think, actually, I don't want that as much as I thought I did, and I've just sort of left that one and gone to something else. So,
go on to something else.
Yeah.
And you know what? That brings up a good point too, because people ask, oh, you know, can you work on multiple things at once? And it's like, but if you get the overwhelmed feeling from, say, doing 3 things, and you're trying to imagine 3 things every night, and this is Neville's suggestion, he says, you capture the feeling of, isn't it wonderful what's happening to me now? And you call up that amazing feeling. You let go of the detail of all those separate things, because obviously if you got those separate things, you would feel the feeling of, isn't it wonderful what's happening to me now? So
so you can shoot yourself in the foot almost, can't you, sometimes, by thinking about how am I going to get this? Because then straight away you haven't got it, and you're thinking, I haven't got this thing. Whereas if you, like you say, if you just think from it, and you know, I've got this thing and this is how I'm feeling and it's great, you're not putting in that, how am I going to get this? You're not focusing on the how and why, how and the what is going to happen. You're just looking purely at what you want. The how, I think, is a big trip up for a lot of people, but I think the more you practice, you know, just who cares how, I'm just going to visualize. Like in the case of going to France, I didn't have the money, I had debt, I was, you know, 24-hour flight away in Sydney, Australia. You know, it wasn't like here in London where you can just hop over there in an hour or 2. It was a long way, it was a costly flight, and it was just it felt like a big deal in my head. So I thought, I don't have to work any of that out. All I got to do is walk down that main street. I just got to walk down that main street. I got to walk down that main street. And that was what was easy and simple and very, very repetitive, which the repetitive part is actually a really good thing that helps manifest too, repetition. There was a story of the girl. I mean, that's quite similar to Barbados, isn't it? Like what you've done there is quite similar to what Neville's saying about how what Abdullah was telling Neville to do. Just walk, just be there, you know, just be there in imagination. Don't worry about the hows and the whys. Just, you are in Barbados. It's quite similar to what you've just done there. There was a story there was another story, I think it was a Neville one, where he's talking. There's this girl, she's I think she's a student or she's at college in New York, and she wants to go home for Christmas or something, and she's on this bus, I think, at night, and she's crying, and she gets off the bus, and it's, you know, and it's absolutely tearing down with rain, you know, and she's crying in the rain or something, and I think she says something to herself. She says something about, this isn't rain, this is the sea, or this is the splashing of the sea. And I was on the boat as I come into, I can't remember which island it was now, but she wanted to go home for Christmas basically, and she needed to get money for this ship or something. And again, I think similar to what happened with Neville, you know, the circumstances worked themselves out because she believed. And as she went into the port and this island, you know, she had these waves splashing her in the face and like the seawater and how she'd imagined it when she was in New York, and she wasn't not sure how she was going to get this trip and how it was going to happen, because she imagined that scene in the rain when she was crying and she was upset, and that is actually exactly how it happened. And that's quite strange as well, actually, how many times things like you were saying, how you envision it actually is how it happens. Sometimes it's not frightening, but it's quite spooky in a way. How it can be, you know.
It is. And also when you look at her story, you know, she wasn't in positive. I mean, she was in desire. She had strong desire, but she was crying and she was upset. It was the fact that she'd lost her father not long before.
Right.
And that was part of the upset. And then people were coming home for Christmas to be with their families, and she didn't have her dad anymore. So I remember thinking, this is a really interesting component of this story, because you think you have to be in a positive, happy emotion to manifest. But that story tells you her desire was so strong, and she transformed the negative, I'm crying and I'm upset, but no, and the rain's pouring on my face, I'm going to pretend. So she twisted that into pretending something so much grander than that moment. And I think that is so inspiring.
Very, I thought that when I read that story. I thought, you know, very, very inspiring. I think as adults as well, it's a lot harder sometimes to imagine, you know, to suspend what's going on around you, because we are taught, aren't we, to just like almost rationalize everything. Things happen to us, and you know, how can that possibly be? How can you possibly afford to do that? You haven't got, you know, X, Y, and Z has got to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. And it's, you know, almost like, whereas I think as children, it's almost like your mind's a lot clearer. It's a lot more. It's easier in a way. It just comes naturally to children, doesn't it? I think as adults, you have to almost like, once you start doing all this stuff, you have to unlearn what you've learnt in a way, you know. Because it's like grooves on a record almost. That's the best way I can describe it. Or tracks on a train line, you know. You have to derail yourself and, you know, go on a different line of process, you know, different thought process. Because you're almost so ingrained in a certain way of thinking about things. This is just like totally turning everything upside down, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
But it's so simple as well when you think about it.
It's really simple. Like, I mean, how many times does Neville say throughout all his books, you just live from it. You live in the wish fulfilled. You don't think of it. You know, he says that over and over. And he talks about that, and this is connected to something that you mentioned that we might discuss, was that people think that events affect your moods, but equally your moods can affect events. And you know, that's where the power comes from, that you are launching and it's unfolding. As you start to walk, the road starts to unfold in front of you, rather than you're doing damage control all the time because you've sent off all these miscreations of stuff you don't want because you didn't know. And then you've got to sort of, your attention's pulled to all this negative stuff all the time, and you're in drama, or you know, whether money or relationships or health or whatever. But once you get the idea and the understanding that you can pre-pave everything, then your life levels out. It becomes so much easier.
It does, and but like I say, it puts you in control as well. You're taking the reins of your life, and it's quite hard to accept responsibility sometimes for things, isn't it? I know there's a bit in The Secret, I can't remember his name now, one of the guys says, I'm going to get a bit in your face here and say, like, you have sort of caused this yourself. I can't remember his name now, but great show. I love that film.
Yes, it is good.
But it's hard sometimes to sort of think everything, like, because we're almost taught to look for causes outside of ourselves, aren't we? But when this sort of stuff is saying the cause starts in here, and it's almost like we're the primary cause often, but it's very hard to swallow at first.
It is, especially when you have something in front of you that you go, oh
Yeah,
no, you know, and then you think,
exactly.
what was I thinking to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done this, but I know people like trace back, the thought processes, and they can actually tell when or what thing started, what
Yeah,
the effect started,
yeah,
this particular event to unfold. I've not
yeah,
done that myself,
yeah,
to be honest with you, but I know people have done that.
yes, yeah. The hardcore Nevilites.
Yeah, it's yeah. Did
Yeah.
have you heard the Aida manifestation that Neville did?
No, no, you
No.
mentioned, and I thought I don't know what it is.
Oh, he was a dancer, of course, wasn't he, Neville? He was into dancing and stuff, and theatre and musicals. There's a story of him. I think his brothers came to see him in New York, and they were really into musicals, and there was all these various musicals on, and but they wanted to see Aida, and basically what had happened was it was sold out. It was completely sold out.
Yeah,
All over New York, this show was sold out. It was completely gone. There's no chance anyone was going to get a ticket. And basically Neville went. He got up in the morning, before they went to the theatre, and he said, I have tickets for Aida or something along those lines. I'm not sure that exactly what he said, but anyway, off he went, with his brothers to this theatre. And they're in the queue in this theatre. It's absolutely rammed full, this theatre, and they're in the queue, and there's a big sign outside, sold out for Aida. But Neville just kept saying, I've got tickets for Aida. I'm going to get tickets for. So not I am, but I have tickets for Aida, or something along those lines. And anyway, it's in this queue, and up ahead of them there's two really tall guys, quite burly. And there's a bit of an argument going on at the ticket counter or something, and I can't remember the exact details of it now. I'm just trying to wrap my brains. My mind's gone. I think basically one of the guys had said something like, you didn't give me enough. Oh no, that was it. The ticket guy said, you haven't given me enough money for this ticket or something. You gave me $10 instead of 20 or something like that, and this guy is adamant. He said, I gave you 20, and the ticket guy said, no, you didn't. You definitely gave me, you gave me 10. And Neville was behind them in the queue, and he said, no, you didn't. You definitely gave him. This big burly 6'2" guy or something, and Neville's there, like, I don't know how tall Neville was, but basically he said to this thief, really,
yeah,
you did not give him, $20. You gave him $10. And as it turns out, eventually this guy gets a bit, sort of with his tail between his legs, and off he goes. And the ticket guy says, thanks very much, for that. You saved me, you saved me money there, because I think the other guy had tried to rip him off as well. So he gets to the counter, Neville, and says something like, "Can I have 3 tickets for Aida?" And the guy says, well, we don't know, we're out of tickets for Aida, but we sort of keep a few back, just in case, for like reserves and stuff, and
yeah,
for whatever reason. I think they have like so many they have to keep aside for, I don't know, for VIPs and that sort of thing. And this ticket guy says, you are very important people. You've just saved me so much money, you see. So he says, you can have these seats, right at the very front as well, like premium seats.
wow,
And there you go. And so they got their Aida tickets, and against all the odds, these tickets
wow. No, I haven't heard that story before. That's
no.
fantastic.
And yeah, it's on. I think it's on YouTube actually. It's one of his. I'll find it for you and send it. I think I've recited it fairly accurately there, but
Yeah, cool.
I just thought that was a fantastic story. It's not one you hear as much, but it's one I've listened to a few times, and just
Yeah,
because everyone plays a part as well in these things, don't they? I guess the guys that were sort of causing the upset were the bridges of incident again. You know, they were the intermediaries between where he wanted to be and where he was.
Yeah.
Again, that's the incident that sort of led to
Yeah.
him, the gratitude of the guy in the ticket booth, and then what
Yeah.
happened as a result of that, really.
I love that term, bridge of incidents. It's lovely words.
Yes, it is. It sort of sums it up quite nicely, really. I think it's.
Yeah.
So what are you reading at the moment? What books have you got a book on the go, or?
No, because I'm sort of not at home. I'm doing more YouTubing, like as in listening to books and stuff, audio books. But yeah, I'm doing a lot more of my own YouTubing, and a lot of working and stuff at the moment. So I haven't been reading as much. But I listen a lot to podcasts, and I still listen to Neville pretty much every second day. I really love that Rearranging the Mind from Neville. It's I just love listening to it. It's about 45 minutes long, and before I go to bed, it's just, I really love it. It's like my comfortable blanket,
Rearranging the Mind. Is that, I know what you mean. There's a channel I listen to quite a bit. Am I allowed to mention other channels on here? Is that all right? Or
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's one called Nevolution, which is a fantastic. And I don't know. It's just the voice, the person who's like narrating. It's just very soothing, and it's nice to listen to before you go to sleep.
She's got a lovely voice. I subscribe to her, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's almost like a bit mystical. It sort of entrances you, and it really gets you into the material as well. So you're there listening to it.
Definitely.
But like Rearranging the Mind, is that a bit like when you sort of watch what you're saying in your head, that sort of thing, or is it like training your mind to think in a certain way?
Thinking a certain way, and again, it's living from the end result. So he talks a lot about how to do that in that 45 minutes, and it's just got so many different levels, and it's just such you could listen to it again and again and again and hear different things, learning different things. Sometimes I listen to something 100 times and I still get something out of it. So good.
That's true.
Dan, I'm just aware that it's 3 minutes to 8, and Zoom will probably
is it really?
Yeah. We've gone for like an hour, because I thought it's probably going to cut us off. I think it cuts us off automatically, so I don't want to not say goodbye to you before we go.
That's fine, yes. It's been fantastic, Agnes. I really enjoyed it.
Fast.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's like
I know.
Yeah, it's been great fun. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure, really. It's been really interesting.
Thank you. And if you're reading something and you're enjoying it, and you want to do another one of these together, or you want to send it to me, and we whatever, just feel free, because I know how much you love Neville. And look, to me, talking Neville, it doesn't get better than that for me. I love it. So I could honestly, and the fact that we can get online now and meet other people that read him. Before, I had one friend that read Neville, and it was the one that gave me my first book. That was it.
Yeah.
So, and we're in the same country at the moment.
Yes, and it's warm.
And it's really hot.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's nice to have a different perspective on things as well, because we all read things slightly differently, don't we, as well? And we pick up things that somebody else misses, or it's nice to get a different perspective. So it's been great. It's been really good fun. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. I'm sure people will be able to chew on some of that when they listen to it. Oh
dear.
Do you want to have a listen to it before I upload? Do you want to have a
no, that's fine.
I'm happy to send it to you first. It's up to you.
Go on then. I'll have a listen to it. That'll be good.
Yeah, have a listen. I like listening to it before I upload it, because when you're in it, you sort of you miss stuff.
No, that'll be good. I'll look forward to it. I look forward to listening to it, actually.
Yeah, I'll send it to you via email, and then once you give me the thumbs up, I will upload it for the others.
Excellent. So, you got a good weekend planned?
Yes, I've got another Airbnb I need to move to because this place where I usually stay has got a wedding, so it was booked a long time ago. So I'm heading to Hampstead.
Oh yeah, Hampstead.
Yeah, I've been there once to visit somebody, so I've got a place there for one night, and then I'm coming back here.
All right.
I'm a gypsy. I live out of a suitcase.
Nice to travel around though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taken 10 years to be free, Dan. I have no fixed abode at the moment. As long as I have Wi-Fi, I can work and I can, everything I need is in one suitcase. That's enough.
Yeah. It's nice sometimes to have that, to be able to do that, and just see different places and go different places and not be too tied to one place.
Yes. And some people can be tied to one place, but I just felt trapped. I really felt trapped. And over the years, I felt depressed by that one thing. So I had to free myself mentally from it first and emotionally, and then use my imagination to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Paves the way again.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, Dan, lots of love to you. And
Thank you,
I'm so glad you did this with me. It was really fun. I probably won't be able to sleep now for hours. My head's going.
Thinking about it. It does sort of inspire, it does sort of get your mind going, doesn't it, Neville? I think
it does. It does.
So much to think
Wonderful.
about.
Well, thank you. And we'll catch you again, and I'll send you a copy as soon as they send it to me. I will send it to you.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good night and have a good 3 days off. You deserve it.
Thank you, and you. Take care.
Ciao, Dan.
See ya.